All right, everybody, welcome back. We are diving deep today into something pretty wild. I mean, you see these headlines every day, and it's like, Trump at it again, right?
Yeah.
This one, though, this one's a doozy. We're talking about President Trump
Mhm.
and him wanting to completely cut off aid to South Africa.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting because it really highlights this very complicated and kind of up and down relationship between the U.S. and South Africa.
You always hear about special relationships, right? It's
Yeah.
international relations.
Right.
What makes this one so special, so interesting?
Well, I mean, I think it's important to remember that going way back during apartheid, the relationship was pretty frosty. Obviously,
Right.
then you have this period of post-apartheid optimism. The U.S. saw South Africa as this key democratic ally in the region, and so there was a lot of hope for the future of the relationship. But in recent years, things have been kind of cooling down a bit, and this just kind of adds more fuel to the fire.
Yeah. And speaking of fuel to the fire, this whole thing about the Africa Growth Program,
Right.
this seems to be kind of at the heart of the issue. Can you break that down for us a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, sometimes AGOA, it's been around since the year 2000. And essentially it gives a lot of African countries, South Africa included, preferential access to U.S. markets. So they can export certain goods to the U.S. with very low or even no tariffs. So we're talking about everything from textiles to agricultural products.
Wow.
Your morning coffee.
Yeah.
That could be affected.
Oh, yeah. Those South African wines.
Exactly. So it's a big deal for the South African economy. And the U.S., has always presented it as this way to promote trade and, boost development in Africa. But
Yeah.
it really is this, key part of the relationship.
So taking that away would be a major blow, it seems like. Let's get into some of the specifics here. Trump is claiming that South Africa is engaged in these unjust and immoral practices against like the Afrikaner community. What's going on there? What's the reality on the ground?
Yeah. It's a very sensitive issue. So essentially there's been this debate going on in South Africa about land reform policies. So the idea is to address the legacy of apartheid, where, the white minority owned a disproportionate amount of land.
Right.
And so the South African government is arguing that, redistributing land is really crucial for social justice and economic empowerment for the black majority.
Okay.
But, Trump and his supporters are saying that these reforms are actually hurting white farmers. And they're pointing to cases of violence against white farmers, which is a real issue, we shouldn't downplay. But critics of Trump's stance are saying that he's exaggerating the situation and, using it as an excuse to kind of punish South Africa.
Right. So there's a lot of nuance here. It's not as clear-cut as some of the rhetoric might make it seem.
Exactly.
And then adding even another layer of complexity here, South Africa filed a genocide case against Israel with the International Court of Justice. I mean, that's a pretty bold move, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge move. And, it's really significant because it puts South Africa, directly at odds with Israel and its allies. And of course, the U.S. is a major ally of Israel. And so South Africa is essentially accusing Israel of committing genocide against the Palestinians. And they're basing this on, what they say are human rights violations and systematic oppression of the Palestinian people.
So this just seems to be kind of like a chain reaction to different things happening here.
Yeah.
But what does all of this actually mean? Like, what are some of the potential consequences of Trump's actions?
Yeah, so I mean, the economic fallout could be pretty significant for South Africa if the U.S. were to, completely pull out of AGOA and end those trade benefits. The South African economy would take a hit. Businesses could lose access to U.S. markets. Consumers in South Africa might see prices go up, on goods that they're used to importing from the U.S.
Right. So we're not just talking about, abstract economic theories here.
Right.
This is going to affect people's day-to-day lives.
Exactly.
I mean, we talked about that quote earlier in our prep about how this is sending shockwaves through South Africa.
Yeah.
This is a real thing that people are feeling on the ground.
Absolutely. And I think it also raises these broader questions about, the shifting landscape of global politics. We're seeing, traditional alliances be tested, new partnerships emerging. And so, this situation with South Africa is in some ways kind of a microcosm of these larger trends.
It's really fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
To see how all of these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, I have to ask you for your expert opinion here.
Yeah.
Do you think Trump is actually serious? Or is this just another, political bluff? I mean, it's tough to say for sure, right? I mean,
Right.
Trump has a history of making these very bold pronouncements
Right.
and then backing down.
Right.
But I think the fact that he's even gone this far suggests that he's at least willing to use this issue as leverage, to maybe extract concessions from South Africa or to, kind of appeal to a certain segment of his base.
So there's still a lot of uncertainty, and we're gonna have to wait and see how all of this plays out. But potentially there are some pretty long-term consequences here for South Africa, for the U.S., and really for the global landscape as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, deep divers, we've only just scratched the surface here of this incredibly complex issue, and it's a story that's still unfolding. So, stay curious, keep exploring, let us know what you find out there, and we'll do the same and be back with another deep dive soon.
Absolutely.
Until then.